Hi, today we're going to be learning how to calculate the surface area and volume of cones when missing a side length. So I'm going to be showing you two different ways that you can solve for these. If you'd like to see the method where we apply these formulas, feel free to skip ahead. I'm going to start off by labeling my sides for the surface area. So we're going to start off with the bottom, and then we also have the side that wraps all the way around the cone. So let's start off with the bottom part down here. I noticed that this is a circle. To find the area of a circle, we're going to do pi times r squared. So pi times my r, radius in this case, is 4. So pi times 4 squared, that's going to get me 50.24. Now for the side, this is the part that wraps all the way around the cone. That's going to be pi times r times s. So pi times my r again, which is 4, times my s is the slant height, which is going to be 5 in this case. All of this multiplied is going to get me 62.8. We're going to add these together, and that's going to get a total of 113.04, and my units are centimeters squared, and that's the surface area. Now for the volume, I'm going to start off with 1/3 times the area of the base or the bottom, which is going to be 50.24. And then we want to multiply that by the height of the cone. But notice that in this case, we're missing the height. So we're going to need to solve for it. I noticed that if I take the height and connect it to the slant height, as well as the radius of the circle, notice that it makes this right triangle. I'm going to draw it down here for us to see. So I know that this part down here is going to be 4. This part right here, the slanted side, is going to be 5. And this vertical part is what we're trying to solve for. So to solve for this missing side length, we're going to need to use the Pythagorean theorem. So let me start by labeling each of my sides, A, B, and C. Across from my right angle is going to be my C. And we can just say that this is A, this is B. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to plug it into A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared is just going to remain the same, plus B squared is going to be 4 squared is equal to C squared, which is 5 squared. Let's solve for A. So A squared plus 4 squared gets me 16 equals 5 squared gets me 25. I want to get A squared by itself, so let's subtract 16 from both sides to cancel this out. All I'm left with on this side is A squared is equal to 25 minus 16 is 9. If I take the square root of both sides, all I'm left with now is A is equal to 3. So that means this height right here is going to be 3 centimeters. And that's what I'm going to be plugging in right here. So times 3, all of this multiplied is going to get me 50.24 centimeters cubed. And that's my volume. Now, if I want to try applying these formulas, I'm going to start off by labeling my dimensions. So I notice I have R and S. So that's going to be the radius right here is my R. The slant height right here is my S. And then this height right here that we just solved for is going to be my H. Now let's plug it in. So starting off with surface area, we're going to do pi times R squared. So pi times r is 4, so that's going to be 4 squared. We're going to add that to pi times r times s. So pi times 4 times 5. And then if I simplify, notice that I get the exact same thing as I did up here. So this multiplied is going to get me 50.24, plus this multiplied is going to get me 62.8. And these added is going to get me 113.04. centimeters squared. And that's the surface area. Now for the volume, starting off with 1/3 times pi times r squared, which is 4 squared, times my height, which is going to be 3. All of this multiplied is again going to get me 50.24 centimeters cubed. And that's my volume. All right, now let's go ahead and try this cone. So again, starting off with surface area, labeling my two sides that I need. I have the bottom and then the side all the way around. Starting off with the bottom, I noticed that this is a circle, so we're going to need to do pi r squared. So pi times r. Now in this case, we are given the diameter, not the radius. So in order to find the radius, I need to get half of the diameter. So half of 16 is going to get me 8. So pi times 8 squared, that's going to get me 200.96. Now let's do the side all the way around the cone. So for this, we're going to need pi times r times s. Now I can start off with pi times r, but notice that in this case, we do not have the slant height s. What we're given here is just the regular height, but we can use the information in this picture to solve for the slant. So I'm going to take my regular height of the cone, connect it to the slant height of the cone, and then go ahead and draw the radius as well. And notice that we get another right triangle. So if I draw it down here for you, I know that this vertical part right here is going to be 12. This part down here is going to be half of 16, which is going to be 8. So that was my radius. And then we're solving for the slant height. So let's label our A, B, and C to use the Pythagorean theorem. Across from the right angle is going to be my C. And we can say this is A and this is B. So plugging it in, 12 squared plus b squared is going to be 8 squared is equal to c squared. 12 squared I know is 144 plus 8 squared is 64 is equal to c squared. And if I add these two together, I end up getting 208 is equal to c squared. To get c by itself, I need to square root both sides of the equation, and I get approximately 14.4 for my c. So that means that this slanted part right here is going to be 14.4 millimeters. And that's what we're going to plug in here for the slant height. So 14.4. All of this multiplied is going to get me 361, and I'm just going to round it to the nearest tenth, so 0.7. Let's add these two sides together and we get a total of 562.66 millimeters squared. And that's the surface area. Now for the volume, we're going to start off with 1/3 times the area of the base or the bottom, 200.96, and then times that by the height. We already had the height, which was 12. Multiplying all of this together is going to get me 803.84 millimeters cubed, and that's my volume. Now let's try applying these formulas. So we're starting off with surface area. Let's label our dimensions. So here, remember, is how we found our radius r. Here was our slant height that we solved for, s, and then here was the given height, h. So plugging all of this in, pi r squared is going to be pi times 8 squared, plus pi rs is going to be pi times 8 times s, which was 14.4. If I simplify all of this, this is going to get me 200.96 plus 361.7. Added together, 562.66 millimeters squared. Same exact surface area. For the volume, we're going to do 1/3 times pi times r squared, which is 8 squared, times the height, which is going to be 12. All of this multiplied, again, 803.84 millimeters cubed. And that's how you solve for the surface area and volume of a cone when missing a side length. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment with any questions or topics you'd like to see next. Bye.